Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about string manipulation and concatenations and everything there's to know when it comes to, playing with the way we display text and all that stuff. Now, this is a pretty interesting subject, and also it expands on the print function that we've been talking about in this section. So it would be a pretty nice thing to learn, which kind of completes your knowledge on the print string function at least. So with that being said, let's get it started. So we have this code here. This is our old code. So I'm just going to kind of get rid of this real quick. Okay. And what I want to build here, let's say we just drop a couple of lines of print function. Okay. So I'm just going to say print. We're going to say hello world, and we're just going to have another one, and we're going to say hello universe. Now if I run this again, we're just going to get what we expect to get, right, which is the hello world and hello universe. And one of the things that I'd like to show you here is a very interesting strategy or way to mix these sentences, because think about it, when you actually write a complex code, you're gonna have probably thousands of lines of code here, and obviously you don't want to have like a print function that is gonna be repeating itself over and over if you have to display text in order or something like this. So the way you do this is that you can actually use a function or a extra character in your string to actually break a line. So this is how we do it. So if the way we do it is we would say print, okay, and we're going to say hello world, and what we're going to do is we're going to add this character, this \n, and then we're going to say hello universe. So if I actually get rid of these lines, and actually run this, we're going to get the same exact thing. See? Hello world, hello universe. So the way this happens is that we put everything in one print function, and we use this \n essentially to just create a break line between these two. Okay? So this character here, this \n, that's what it does. This essentially just creates a break between a text or a string. All right, so you can do a lot of interesting things, and there are a lot more things you can do actually with this. All right, so which we're going to actually explore right now. Now another thing I'd like to talk about beside this is something we call concatenation. So the concatenation is essentially adding a bunch of sentences to each other, or adding a bunch of strings to each other. A string essentially, as I said, is basically this text that we have here, right? So let's say we're going to say print, and what we do is we say hello, right? So instead of just saying hello world, which we usually do, one of the things we can do we can actually add these to each other. So we can say hello, right? And then we can say plus, and we say world. So just like that, we just made a hello world that is made of two different strings. So let's get rid of this one more. I'm just going to turn this to a comment real quick. Okay, so this part doesn't show in our results. So there you go. So I just made a hello world with just the plus sign. Now obviously, and this is concatenation now, you obviously want to get the spacing and everything correct. All right, so there are different ways that you can actually get this spacing. So if you take a look at the result here, we say hello world, and there's no space, so this is not the way we want it, right? So there are a few ways for you to actually get this spacing right. So the first one, let's just say print. So we got hello and plus world. Let's just make sure it's in a string. Something I think I didn't mention is that when you actually have a print function, and when you actually don't put it inside a string or inside a double quote, like so for example we say hello, right? So this is a string, right? But when you actually have it like this, when there's no double quotation mark, it actually thinks it's a code. So that's when it becomes a problem, right? So again, we'll talk about that later on, but I just want to go over this. So we got hello world. So there are different ways that you can add a space. So the first thing is pretty simple. You can just add a space right here. So let me just actually turn this into a comment again. Okay. There we go. So if I actually run this, we're going to get hello world. Very simple, right? So another way to actually add a space here is we can say hello plus, and we can add a space. There you go. I'm just gonna use Sean. So I'm just gonna add a space before this second line of string that we have. So there you go. Hello Sean. See? So very simple stuff. And another way, which is again another creative way to actually do this, is we can say hello, and we can add a string as its own, add a space as its own string. All right. So the way you do this is you say plus, and we say we add a string with a space, and then we add another plus and say Sean. Here we go. Well, let's just make it into a string so it doesn't think it's a code. There we go. So just like that, we made another way to display hello Sean. So again, very simple stuff, really, nothing complicated here. It's just different ways you can actually add a space to your print function, to your strings, essentially. So this is what we call concatenation, and it's a pretty common thing that is used in programming, and this is something we're going to use a lot later on as well. But right now, right now we're using it to add two strings to each other, essentially hello and world, hello Sean, and all that stuff. But later on, we can use it for different stuff. We can actually use it to add numbers. We can use it for a lot of different things. So that's just a concatenation. All right. So another thing I'd like to talk about, since we're talking about print, is that one of the things you want to remember is that spaces are very, very important in Python. Okay, so the way spaces work is that adding an extra space somewhere that you're not supposed to can cause problems. Okay, and again, like for example, in this case, for example, we add spaces to the string because space itself can be a string, so that's not a big deal, right? But for example, if I actually start a function. Okay, let's actually turn all these to comments. All right, let's say I start a function and I'm just gonna say print, and we're gonna say hello plus world. Okay, so if I add a space here before the print, just like that, this is going to be a problem and it's not going to run. If I actually run this, we're gonna get an error. There you go, unexpected indent. So this basically means, this is an error, essentially means that there is a space here that is not supposed to be, and you got to get rid of this. Okay, so again, what you want to remember is that spaces are very, very important in Python, and you definitely want to pay attention. Or even a tab can mess it up. So if I run it and add a tab here, again, it's just going to get the same error. It says an unexpected indent. So again, we definitely want to make sure that you don't add any like spaces or anything like that you're not supposed to. And you can make mistakes. A lot of people make mistakes, even I do, because when you write thousands of lines of codes, or you're just tired at night, you can get a lot of things wrong. Okay, trust me. And adding an extra space here and there can really cause problems. And one of the ways to actually catch this is using code intelligence. Now, if you pay attention, if I add a tab here, this line of code actually starts showing a red line right below it. It's like a squiggly line. So that essentially tells you that there is going to be an error. And if you actually hover on it, it's going to show you the error that it's going to show. So before you even click run and essentially compile this code, you're going to be able to see this error right here. So again, that's one of the features of code intelligence. And if you don't know how to enable it, if you haven't done that already, we did talk about it in the previous section, I believe. You go to the settings and you are going to scroll all the way down to what was it? There you go, code intelligent, and just you want to make sure you have this enabled. All right. So yeah, so that's basically how it works, and it shows errors and all that stuff. So you want to make sure you get that right. Now I'm going to talk about debugging and errors later on, because I want to make sure I finish up talking about like some of the other important stuff that we want to talk about. But you know, we'll talk about them more as well in the future. But again, just keep in mind, remember, you want to make sure that you don't mess up the spaces. That's very, very important. Spaces can cause a lot of problems in Python if you place some spaces that you're not supposed to. And also remember, you know, there are different ways you can concatenate stuff. You can concatenate you know, strings like we did here, right? And you can concatenate words and everything, or like even numbers, which again we'll talk about later on as well. But again, it's just a pretty simple subject. Make sure you practice this. I'm going to have a full practice file and lesson, and that's something we'll talk about in the next video. But just keep in mind, this is something you can practice. Make sure you practice concatenating like words and like all that stuff and sentences for yourself, and just put it to use really. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one, because I want to talk about like I want to give you a few practice sessions for you to actually put this to use. So I'll talk about it in the next lesson.